Today, we will explore one of the unsolved mysteries in the Bible, the story of Cain and his wife. Cain, who became the symbol of the first sin in human history. Do you truly understand his life? Why does the Bible fail to explain the origin of Cain's wife? Join me in exploring fascinating research and explanations about this story. And let's uncover theories regarding the appearance of Cain's wife, as well as the secrets yet to be revealed about his relationships with other biblical figures. Don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell today so you won't miss the exciting and surprising videos in the future. Let's dive into more fascinating and captivating discoveries together. In the beginning of mankind, Adam and Eve, the first ancestors, lived a peaceful life in the Garden of Eden, a place where love and harmony spread throughout. However, the birth of Cain, their firstborn child, ushered in a new, challenging chapter in the human story. Cain grew up under the guidance of his father, Adam, who taught him how to cultivate fertile soil and farm. Along with Eve, Cain's mother, he was told stories of a lost paradise and the secrets of their origins, a legacy of love and transgression. The tales of the serpent and the tree of knowledge were told by the fire, while the night sky, lit with stars, seemed to recount ancient myths. Eve gave birth to another son, Abel, who had a unique gift for befriending animals, assisting his brother Cain in agricultural work. Each season, Cain sowed and harvested, feeling the life of the earth as though it were a sign of his connection to the divine. He carried both the blessings and challenges of being the firstborn in a world full of promise, but also fraught with trials. Along with Eve, Cain's mother, he was taught stories of a lost paradise and the secrets of their origins, a legacy of love and sin. The stories of the serpent and the tree of knowledge were told by the firelight, while the night sky, scattered with stars, seemed to retell ancient myths. Eve continued to bear another son, Abel, who had a special affinity for animals, complementing his brother Cain in farming. Each season, Cain farmed and harvested, sensing the vitality from the earth as a sign of his divine connection. He carried both the blessings and challenges of being the firstborn in a world full of promise, but not without hardships. The fire quickly consumed the animal, a clear sign of God's acceptance. Cain, with equal sincerity, offered the fruits he had carefully nurtured, the vegetables and grains that had cost him much effort. However, when the fire consumed Abel's sacrifice, Cain's offering merely produced thick smoke, untouched, a clear rejection from God. Cain's heart was filled with despair and bitterness, feeling as if all his efforts had become meaningless, especially when witnessing the acceptance of Abel's gift. The injustice Cain felt seemed to burn his heart, fueled by every satisfied glance Abel received. The brotherly love, the sacred foundation of their relationship, began to fracture under the weight of jealousy and resentment. That day, a significant change occurred in Cain, a rejection not just of his offering, but of his own value and the worth of his labor, turning it into an unhealed wound from which a tragic decision would emerge, altering not only Cain's fate, but forever shaping the history of mankind. The rivalry between the two brothers, born from the divide between acceptance and rejection, now led them toward a dark conclusion, reflecting the complexities and imperfections within the human heart. As a man of the land, Cain's hands were strong and firm from his farming work. The fruits and grains he offered were the result of countless hours of hard labor, each grain, each fruit, bearing the mark of his hope and tireless dedication. Yet, God looks not only at the material of the offering, but also sees the heart of the one who presents it. Cain's heart, though filled with devotion and commitment, also harbored deep resentment, not only toward Abel, but perhaps even toward God himself. It was the darkness within his soul, the distortion in his heart, that tainted his offering. God, in his omniscience, seeks not only material offerings, but a complete surrender of the heart, a heart free from resentment, pride, or sin. Therefore, God's rejection of Cain's offering was not a failure in the gift, but a failure in the one who presented it. One day, Cain invited Abel to walk through his land. Abel, with his innocence and trust in his brother, accepted the invitation, unaware that he was walking toward a place already set by fate. Meanwhile, the sky above gradually darkened, a sign of an approaching storm. When they arrived, facing each other, the suppressed emotions within Cain exploded. His questioning swiftly turned into sharp accusations. As Abel recognized the fury in Cain's anger, he attempted to soothe him, but all efforts only intensified Cain's rage. In a moment of unrestrained rage, Cain picked up a stone nearby, and with a lethal strike, he ended Abel's life. Cain, with hands stained in blood, felt the full weight of his actions. The consequence of divine rejection became real in the worst possible way. The first death. The first blood spilled in the name of wrath and envy. When God confronted Cain, he showed no anger, only a deep sorrow that seemed to spread through the heavens and earth. Cain, in that moment, could find no comfort. His punishment was a life of isolation, shunned by society, rejected by his very land, just as he had rejected Abel's love. God not only judging, but also uttering a curse that carried both punishment and protection. You are cursed from the earth, which has received your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it will no longer yield its strength to you. You will be a fugitive and a wanderer on the earth. On. These words not only condemned Cain to a life of exile, but also wounded the very land he had once tended. The earth, his source of life, now rejected all his labor and efforts. Cain was exiled to the land of Nod, east of Eden, where his life became a solitary journey, filled with reflections on the consequences of his sins and actions. Cain feared that his life in exile would lead to death, worried that anyone who encountered him would kill him. God, understanding the complexities of his soul, gave Cain a special mark, not only for physical protection, but also as a reminder of his sin and God's presence, even in punishment. God declared that anyone who killed Cain would face vengeance sevenfold, a curse deeply ingrained with justice and divine protection he had established. With this mark, Cain was not only protected from death, but became an eternal symbol of the interplay between justice, mercy, and punishment. In his journey, Cain carried loneliness and remorse, but he also encountered a woman, possibly one of Adam and Eve's daughters, who shared with him part of the story of the first humans and the challenges they faced in life. We've made a video about the daughters of Adam and Eve, and I'll leave the link on the screen and in the video description, so be sure to check it out, as it will bring many fascinating surprises. Cain and his partner formed a bond not just between two individuals but across generations, continuing the flow of life, despite the shadow of their family's history filled with sin and transgression. From this union, Enoch was born, not only continuing Cain's lineage, but marking a crucial turning point in human history. Although Cain still carried the shadow of his past, the birth of Enoch offered him a chance to change, to make a distinctive mark in this world. No longer a mark of violence and curse, but a mark of hope and the potential for atonement. Cain made the bold decision to build a city, a refuge for his family and those who shared the desire for a fresh start, unshackled from the past. The city of Enoch became the first human settlement after Eden, proving humanity's ability to build society and organization even in the most challenging circumstances. The story of Cain, his wife, and their son Enoch reflects the resilient strength of humanity the ability to overcome limitations imposed by external circumstances and internal failures. This part of the biblical story is not just a chronicle of population growth, but a profound study of how individuals and families can shape and change their destinies, creating legacies that can transcend past judgments. Despite being marked by God's curse, Cain saw in the birth of his son, Enoch, a spark of hope and an opportunity to change his destiny. His son was not only the continuation of his lineage, but also a symbol of a new beginning, a chance to start over. The city of Enoch, with its strong walls, became a symbol of unity, not only protecting its people from natural disasters, but also acting as a shield against loneliness and despair. Naming the city. Enoch was not a coincidence, but a decision with deep significance for Cain. It was his way of honoring the next generation, investing in a future unaffected by the past. This city was not just a place for Cain and his family to rebuild their lives, but a place where anyone seeking a new opportunity could come together and build a strong community. Enoch, as a symbol, embodied the power to regenerate a new story, where atonement was not only for Cain, but also for all those who found hope within his community. Over time, the city of Enoch evolved not just in material growth, but also as a cultural center, a space for learning and exchanging ideas. Skills, traditions, and lifestyles were shared and enhanced, forming a culture of collaboration and innovation. The story of Cain founding the city of Enoch is not just an act of construction, but a profound expression of the relentless struggle to overcome personal failure, seeking atonement through creative action, and the creation of a lasting legacy. In his complex and contradictory journey, Cain became a symbol of humanity's eternal struggle, rising above the past and creating meaningful values from the ruins of the old world. Cain's story, especially after his exile, not only helps us understand the early population of humanity, but also raises many questions about how humans have been, and continue to, form societies and communities from the very beginning of existence. While the Bible briefly mentions the early days of humanity with Adam and Eve as the ancestors of mankind, details about other figures and cities have sparked many intriguing theories, generating curiosity among theologians, scholars, and those passionate about exploring the origins of humanity. One of the most controversial questions is about Cain's wife. The Bible does not provide details about the origin of his spouse, leading to numerous theories, including the possibility that Adam and Eve had daughters not explicitly mentioned in the Bible, allowing Cain to marry a sister. This interpretation is based on the hypothesis that in the early days, humans may have intermarried within a narrow family circle, which was seen as necessary for reproduction and sustaining the species, though it was later prohibited by Levitical laws. On the other hand, some have hypothesized the existence of other groups of people whom God created independently of Adam and Eve. This theory suggests that outside the Garden of Eden, God may have created other regions on earth where different groups of people existed, and these groups later integrated with the descendants of Adam and Eve. The city of Enoch, through its construction and development, suggests the formation of a social structure and an emerging culture surpassing the simplicity of a nuclear family. These speculations not only enrich our understanding of biblical texts, but also challenge readers and viewers to think more holistically about the origins of humanity. However, despite the varying interpretations, one unchanging theme is the struggle to face and build human life under the shadow of the divine and the moral and ethical choices we face, which ultimately shape the historical path of humanity. From the early chapters of the book of Genesis, the Bible describes the formation of social norms and family structures in the early stages of humanity. Among the notable cultural practices of this time was sibling marriage, a practice that, though alarming by modern standards, was essential for the survival of the human species in the early days after the creation of Adam and Eve. The early generations of humanity, with their limited numbers, had to rely on intra-family marriages to maintain and grow the population. Thus, sibling marriage was not viewed as morally questionable, but as a necessary means to fulfill the divine command to multiply that God gave to humankind. The acceptance of familial marriages in this period was closely linked to the survival and early development of humanity, and the genetic or social consequences we associate with close-kin marriages today were neither acknowledged nor understood at the time. Therefore, this aspect in the Bible symbolizes human adaptability and resilience, as well as the evolution of moral and ethical standards in society. Sibling marriages in the early stages of humanity serve as evidence of the extreme conditions the first generations faced, and the significant shifts in cultural practices and norms that were implemented as society evolved. This part of the story not only offers deep insights into the development of human society, but also reflects a continuous dialogue between divine law and the condition of humanity, showcasing the interaction between faith and the practical needs of humanity in the early stages of life. In the early pages of Genesis, the story of creation and humanity's first steps carries a brief yet meaningful detail, hinting at a reality much more complex than we typically imagine. After the tragic events surrounding Cain and Abel, the Bible mentions that Adam and Eve had other sons and daughters. This is not just a small historical note, but an important window to understanding the rapid and diverse development of the human family from its earliest days. This detail, mentioned in Genesis chapter 5, not only adds to the story of Cain and Abel, but also highlights the continuity of humanity through other children of Adam and Eve, such as Seth, who is described as a replacement for Abel. This suggests that the family tree of humanity branched out, extending beyond the few prominent names we know from the sacred pages. This information is crucial for understanding the rapid development and expansion of humanity in its early days. Adam and Eve having many children who were not recorded in the prominent stories reflects a society taking shape with many important figures left unmentioned in historical records. Marriages between close relatives, a common practice in the Bible, reflect the complexity of social and cultural norms during that time. In the Old Testament, sibling or close-kin marriages were not only a common occurrence, but also carried significant strategic implications. This is not a matter of personal preference or desire, but a means of preserving lineage, wealth, and family unity. The marriage between Abraham and Sarah, for example, is a classic example. Abraham, the patriarch of 3 major monotheistic religions, married Sarah, who was his half-sister. This is revealed in a dialogue between Abraham and the Pharaoh of Egypt, where Abraham confirms that Sarah is his father's daughter, although not his mother's. This practice, although less accepted today due to ethical and genetic reasons, played an important role in preserving the survival of communities in the early days of humanity. Marriages between close relatives in the Bible are evidence of the harsh conditions early generations faced and the significant changes in social norms that occurred as humanity progressed. These stories, through the lens of cultural norms, reveal humanity's adaptation to the circumstances and needs of the time, while reflecting the evolution of thought and divine laws over time. The story of Isaac and Rebekah, like other marriage tales in the Bible, reflects the complex family and social practices of the era. Isaac, the son of Abraham, married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel, and the cousin of his mother, Sarah. This marriage was not a random occurrence, but a meticulously planned strategy, with Abraham sending his loyal servant back to his homeland to find a wife for Isaac from his own family, thereby preserving the family's traditions and beliefs. Looking at these marriage stories, we clearly see that they served not only personal purposes, but also helped in building and fortifying society, reflecting the complex social, economic, and religious dynamics of the time. As time went on and the population of Israel increased, the complexity of social and familial relationships also grew, requiring changes in social norms and regulations. This led to the establishment of the Mosaic laws, a legal code given to the people of Israel to guide moral, social, and religious conduct. Among these laws, those concerning marriage between close relatives were introduced to address the needs of an increasingly complex society. These restrictions, set forth in the book of Leviticus, prohibited marriages between siblings, uncles and nieces, and fathers-in-law and daughters-in-law, with the aim of protecting the health and sanctity of the community, as well as preserving purity within the nation of Israel. The Mosaic laws regarding marriage between relatives reflect a shift in the social structure as the Israelites settled in Canaan and encountered influences from cultures with differing religious and social practices. The implementation of these laws was not just a response to external changes, but a necessity to ensure the integrity and continuity of Israeli values. These regulations not only formed the family and social structure, but also served as a code of conduct, strengthening community unity and preserving collective identity. Furthermore, from a practical perspective, restrictions on marriage between close relatives helped prevent potential genetic issues from arising in a genetically homogeneous population. This highlights the foresight of the Mosaic laws, which can be seen as an early recognition of genetics and inherited health. Ultimately, the richness of biblical stories lies not only in their content, but in the diversity of interpretations they allow. The story of marriage in the Bible serves as a prime example of how cultural and social practices evolve over time to address the needs and challenges of society. These laws were not merely reactions of an ancient society, but are lessons in change and adaptation, helping us better understand the development of moral and cultural standards throughout human history. The Bible, a sacred text revered by millions worldwide, has not only been a source of moral and spiritual enlightenment for centuries, but also serves as a foundation for establishing life principles within faith communities. Scholars, theologians, and followers have continuously studied and interpreted these sacred pages, seeking a deeper understanding of how the teachings can be applied to everyday life. However, in this interpretive process, a great diversity of understandings persists, reflecting varied cultures, eras, and individual perspectives. Nevertheless, two fundamental principles consistently rise as solid pillars in the interpretation and application of the Bible: surrendering to the will of the divine and respecting tradition. These principles not only guide the interpretation of Scripture, but also shape how faith communities live by and uphold those teachings across generations. Both of these principles not only exist side by side, but also intertwine, creating a strong foundation for the growth of biblical interpretation. While scholars may debate the subtleties of passages or the application of rules in today's world, these fundamental principles help maintain a balance between innovation in interpretation and loyalty to the faith foundations passed down through generations. This ensures that the Bible's message remains preserved and honored through all generations. The story of Cain's wife, though cloaked in mystery within the biblical text, offers an intriguing perspective on the complexity of human origins and the social practices of humanity's early days. This unnamed character, though not detailed in the Bible, holds profound significance, symbolizing the expansion of the human family after Adam and Eve, and reflecting the necessity of interpreting the Bible in a specific cultural, and societal context. Although the information about Cain's wife is scarce, she serves as proof of the interaction between the first generations and illustrates that within biblical stories, there remain gaps in human history that can only be imagined and explored. Ultimately, by exploring the characters and stories in the Bible, we not only gain an understanding of the richness of the faith journey, but also observe how values and survival strategies have been developed and passed down through generations. Thank you for watching this video. If you found today's discoveries intriguing, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the upcoming exciting videos. We will continue to uncover more mysteries in the Bible as the journey of discovery never ends.